Hello and welcome to Assets Tech Tips. Today we're going to talk about encryption. This is a shout out to Roxy who submitted a question about encryption to me, so this video will be dedicated to showing you all how to encrypt a full system disk and how to create an encrypted container. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Here I've got a virtual machine specifically for the task. It's fresh, there's not an awful lot on it, so what I do here should be exactly the same as what you guys need to put up with as well. To start off with, let's open up a browser and go to the website where we're going to download Veracrypt. Open up your browser and type in Veracrypt and the first link you find on Google should be the one to go to. Here's the URL. Download the latest version that they have. At the moment it is 1.15, and once you have that downloaded, double click on the executable and install it. Veracrypt is pretty much the same as Decrypt. It's based on the exact same source code. The installation will be exactly the same as Decrypt. So for all you Decrypt fans out there, I'd recommend now being a good time to transition to Veracrypt. Just to give you a little bit of history on this, Decrypt, the developers of Decrypt stopped developing Decrypt approximately 15-16 months ago. So there haven't been any updates, there hasn't been any patches, and a few of the problems that have popped up have not been ironed. A French developer by the name of Mr. Monnier has decided to take over the project, put his name on the line, and keep the Decrypt experience alive. So now the name Decrypt basically has changed. It's now Veracrypt. He's doing a really good job keeping the software up to date and has even enhanced it with some better security features, and the few little glitches and bumps that Decrypt has had have now been fixed in version 1.15. Continuing on here now with the installation, click on Next. After you've chosen to accept the terms, click Install. Select the location you wish to save it to. I'd recommend leaving this exactly the same as it is here unless you have a specific installation directory. Choose Install. And then click on Finish. Now, before I click on Finish, I'm going to ask you guys, if you are able to, you should, and I do recommend, give a little bit of a donation. The guys who make this software are putting in a lot of love and a lot of work, and the result is a really, really nice free open source tool that really does the job very well. Let's try and keep this software alive, and you can do that by donating. Okay, if you're new to Veracrypt, or if you've never used Decrypt before, then I would recommend having a look at the tutorial. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip this and just go with no. So here's the program. Side by side, you can get a look and see that it's exactly the same as Decrypt. As I said, it's based on the exact same open source code. So everything that you could do in Decrypt, you can do in Veracrypt plus more. So closing this down and getting on with it, like I said, the first thing we're going to do is a full disk encryption. Now, why do you want to do this? This is great if you've got a laptop that contains sensitive information and you want to make sure that your laptop is going to remain protected and secure in the event that you might lose it. If you do lose your laptop, what's going to happen is the person who gets their hands on it, when they choose to boot it up, will have to enter in an encryption password to decrypt your hard disk and get the system to boot. So that's the first step here. To do that, we want to click on Create Volume. Then we want to click on Encrypt the system partition or the entire system drive. Click Next. I'll explain hidden later. Choose Normal. Click Next. Choose Encrypt the whole disk. This here would be if you've got a PC that has multiple disks in it. So you've got one disk SSD for your operating system and other disks that contain data. This would be a good option, but since I'm assuming you've only got one disk, because most laptops only do have one disk, this is the best option to select for this circumstance. Choose Next. Click Yes. I would recommend that you do not encrypt any hidden partitions or system tool partitions. If you've got more than one operating system, choose multi-boot. If you don't, select single and click on Continue. I'm going to stick with AES. If you want something a little bit more hardcore or different, you can research. Just pop these names into Google and check them out. They're different types of algorithms that basically do the same thing in a slightly different way. Click on next once you've made your selection and put in a password. Now the password I'm going to use for the tutorial is a dreadful password, and I highly recommend you do not use it. Passwords should be absolutely under no circumstances lower than 8 characters. I recommend a minimum of 12, and you got to really mix it up. Get some capitals in there, have some lowercase, definitely put some numbers in, and I recommend a nice few symbols. Don't use all the same symbols, mix them up. The more you use lower, bigger numbers and different symbols, the harder it's going to be for somebody to break this password. If you use a weak password, then what's the point in encrypting? Okay, clicking on continue. Move your mouse around in this box to get a nice random content pool for your header keys. Click next when you're done. Click next again. Now you're going to have to create a rescue disk. The rescue disk is in the event that your own hard drive becomes for some reason corrupt or damaged and you're having difficulties booting. If you need to do some kind of data restoration, you're going to have to decrypt the disk. Even if it's taken out, you're still going to have to decrypt the disk. So this is what this is for. You cannot continue without creating a rescue disk, so you must go through with this. I'm going to put the rescue disk here onto the desktop. Make it easy to get my hands on. Make sure you use the extension point ISO. Click on next. And here now you can see we've got our rescue disk. Now the next few steps that I'm going to do will be a little tiny bit different for you guys because I'm using a virtual machine. I need to put my burnt disk here into my CD-ROM drive so that the Veracrypt can verify it and check that it's all right. What you guys will need to do is either burn it to disk or make a bootable USB key. If you're going to go the bootable way, I would recommend using a neat little tool called Rufus. R-U-F-U-S. It's a lightweight, tiny little tool. Let's just get the size if we can. There you go. Yeah, really small little tool. Let's download that. So this here is Rufus. Nope. When you put your USB key into your computer, from this drop-down menu you will be able to see it. Select your USB key, choose your partition type, which will be NTFS. Oh no, I apologize. Choose your file system type, which should be NTFS, and then go down to this icon, and when you click it, you'll get your browse window, where you then browse for the ISO file. Once done, just click on Start, and that will burn the rescue disk to a USB key so that you can pop it into your machine, restart, and boot off the USB in the event that you should need it. Let's close that down and just give me a moment now while I put this disk virtually into this virtual machine. Okay, that disk has now been inserted into my virtual machine. Let us check that it's there. Here you can see my disk is in. So once you have either created a bootable USB or a CD with the rescue disk, then you will need to click on Next. This will launch the Windows burning wizard as far as I know. Okay, and here's the Windows Disk Image Burner. Since I've already done this, I'm going to skip it. So let's click Cancel. Okay, click Next. My disk has been verified. I need to remove it. Quickly removing the disk from my drive now. One moment. Okay, so that disk has been removed from my machine. Clicking Next. Choosing Fastest. And then we're going to do a test. I very strongly recommend that you print this out. These are instructions which will explain to you what you need to do when you do run into trouble. I recommend that you fold that printed out piece of paper up, stick it with your USB key or CD, and store it in a safe place. So should you need to do any kind of decryption in the future, you will have all of the information and the tools necessary together. Now let's see. So this here is what you'll see when your screen boots up. When you press the power button, the very first thing you're going to see is enter in your password before it even goes into post. So you need to enter in your password. Oops, I needed to turn my number lock on, so that'll fail. Alright, so let's just wait for that to fail. I forgot to put in the numbers. Once you've entered in your password, press enter, and then press enter again to bypass PIM and wait for it to verify. Okay, and now the system is booting up. So that there shows us that the test worked. It was a success. We're going to boot up, log in, and then it'll ask us to actually start the encryption process. Okay, so let us log in now. Veracrypt should automatically pop up. Okay, so now we can see our pretest has completed and we're being asked to encrypt. So click on Encrypt to start the process. Again, you can see this is important, so do please print it off. It will be a lifesaver when you need it. Here. So you can pause or you can defer at any time to interrupt the process of the encryption or the decryption. Exit the wizard, restart, shut down your computer, and then resume the process, and it'll resume from where you left off. As you can see here, this is going to take a little bit of time. This here is not entirely accurate actually. I think because my disk is so small, it should only take about 7 or 8 minutes. I created a small OS disk on purpose. Here we are. Yeah, so you can see my OS disk is quite small here. So this process should take only a couple of minutes. But to save you guys from waiting, I'm going to pause and we shall continue when the process is almost finished. Now we can see here that the encryption is just finished. So there we go. Perfect. So click on finish. And now the system is encrypted. So every time we do a restart, a shutdown, and a boot up, that screen that we saw not too long ago where we're being prompted for the password to decrypt the disk and boot is what we're going to get. And it will be like that from now on. The only way to undo that would be to log into the system after you've entered in your decryption or encryption password. Click on System Drive, volumes, and choose to permanently decrypt. That's basically what the rescue disk does in the event of disk failure. Now, to create an encrypted container. Now that we've secured our notebook or our portable computer, and we have, let's say, very, very important information, then what we'd like to do is we would like to keep that information secured on the machine again in an encrypted container. To do that, click on Create Volume, create an encrypted file container, standard. Again, I'll explain hidden. Hidden here is the same as hidden on the full disk encryption, sort of, in a manner to say. Here we need to give our container a name. I'm going to call mine Secure Container. I will save it on the root. We click on Next. AES. I don't need to change it. I want to create just a small one, 1 gig. I'd recommend though that you think about the size of the container that you wish to use and give it an appropriate size. However, even if you choose a size that's too small for the content you're putting in, we can select dynamic, and I'll explain that in a second. Enter in a good strong password. And like before, move your mouse around to get a nice random pool. I would recommend for Windows users that you change the file system to NTFS and select dynamic. Now this here is exactly what dynamic does. If you've got a 1 gig container and you put a 2 gig file into that 1 gig container, it'll automatically resize. I recommend that you select dynamic because the alternative is a lot of work. Files out of the container, unprotected for a little while you delete the container, recreate a new bigger container and put everything back in. Whereas if you just select dynamic, it'll resize according to the stuff that you put in. This is good for future proofing in a way. So click Next, choose Format, Yes. And now we've got our container. Wait for it to finish. Okay, and that's that. So now we've got our container. If you're using a centralized cloud such as Dropbox, you could put this container onto your account and have everyone access it that way. This here can only be really used if you enter in the correct password to decrypt the container and see the contents inside it. So how that works, for example, would be you'd need to open up Veracrypt. You would need to select the location of the file. So in this case, it is on C admin secure container. If you were using a cloud service such as Dropbox, you would navigate to your Dropbox folder. And once you've selected it, you choose a letter to mount it to. I'm going to select X, and then you select Mount, where you'll be prompted to enter in your password. Now before I click OK, I'm just going to show you here. We have, ignore this does not work, a CD-ROM drive and our operating system disk. When, see here, when I click on OK, a new disk is going to show up, disk X. And here we are. And now this is our container. So anything that we put in here, anything that goes in here, will remain protected. We can put all of our documents, our files, whatever we need to keep safe. And then once we're done, we just select Dismount to dismount that file. You can go through certain preferences and select how long you want it mounted for, as far as I know. you can set as read only so that they are only readable. I'll show you how to do portable containers for USB keys now in a second. Let's take a look. Settings. Let's try out properties. Okay, that's all the info about our container. Yeah, so I'd recommend basically just going through the settings, taking a look, and configuring the program to work the way that you need it to work. Basically, this is what I was looking for here. You decrypt your container, you have it open, you go on lunch, you forget about it. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have it automatically lock again. Just make sure you save your work before it auto locks. Now, for those of you using USB keys and portable disks, I would recommend that you go to Tools and then click on Traveler Disk Setup. What Traveler Disk Setup does is it will install the application onto that portable disk so that you are able to launch it from the portable disk. So if I stick this Traveler Disk Setup for Veracrypt on a USB key and I go to another machine that does not have Veracrypt installed on it, I can pop in the disk, the USB key, I can pop in the USB key, open it up, launch Veracrypt from the USB key, and then access the container on the USB key, mount it, so that I can get my private secure files. And that's what you do for the Traveler's Disk. If you've got any questions, send me an email. My email address is assetscript@gmail.com. Take care. Bye bye.